One Question is brought to you by Turnkey Search, a top industry search firm since 1996. Michael Smith with Sports Business Journal and Sports Business Daily is back on One Question. He and John Orand broke the big news earlier today, of course, of a potential, we'll still say potential, although it's certainly headed in the direction of a merger, potential merger between Learfield and IMG College. Michael, where do we start here?
Well, Matt, first of all, thanks for having me. I think you start with the basic aspects of this, which is the opportunity to put the multimedia rights to 200 schools under one banner, so that the merged Learfield, IMG, whatever they end up calling the company, I think it'll be Learfield, can go out and market these schools and sell for these schools in a unified approach like has never been available in the college space before.
And the one thing about your break that I found most interesting, because it was a question that I was kind of asking myself, was how high did this decision go, right? And I figured the Ateros folks were involved, but I didn't know how high it went on the WME IMG side. And you've reported it went all the way up to Silver Lake managing partner level. So what indication maybe is this on Silver Lake's take of where there is opportunity in college athletics and maybe where there's not anymore?
Well, just to be completely honest, my take on it is that Silver Lake and to some degree WME are just kind of worn out from the college business. They haven't been able to grow it. They've not even come close to meeting the projections from when they bought the business back in 2013. And they've gone through at least 3 rounds of leadership changes. Their profit line has gone down slightly, and at a time when they were projecting to be at close to $100 million in EBITDA for IMG College, it's actually around 60. And obviously a business that makes a profit of $60 million is a great business, but when you bought it based on projections of a much higher number, and you're dealing with investors, then that's a different story. And they just haven't been able to, like I said in the story, they just haven't been able to solve the riddle of the college space. And I think they think this is their best alternative, rather than continuing to try to do it themselves. Put it in the hands of proven pros like Greg Brown at Learfield, and without getting out of the college business, put it in their hands and let them try to grow it.
The follow-up here is, and you've covered this space for quite a while, what do you see from a different standpoint between why Learfield has been able to grow their bottom line over the last, 2-3 decades? But compare those two entities and maybe why has Greg Brown and Learfield had so much success in this space?
Well, a couple of things about Learfield. To me, the genius in what they've done in going from Learfield that was owned by Learfield to being owned by Shamrock and other private equities, Providence and now Ateros, is that they've been able to maintain their leadership, a consistency of their culture, and it feels like the same business. Now, I'm sure there are certain pressures that they're under now that they were not under 10 years ago. But it feels like the same business. It's the same familiar faces. It's that core group of 6 or 7 leaders in the company that have all stuck around. And they don't, Greg Brown doesn't make a decision to sell unless he meets with them first. And so I think that consistency and that familiarity and the contacts that they have been good not only for the multimedia rights business, but for some of these other properties or these other businesses that they've bought, like a Mogo and a Pacquiao and ANC and so on. On the other side, with IMG College, they've gone through 3 rounds of leadership changes. And the college business is just very different from the core WME agency business, where you do a deal and you take your 10% and you move on. The college business is a somewhat of a high risk business with millions and millions of dollars tied up in guarantees to the schools, and there just never seemed to be a mesh there with how, just because the two businesses are so different that they're involved in.
Rattle off for me, Michael, the questions still remaining in your mind before we learn, every detail of this deal. What's at the top of the list for you that you're interested in learning more about over the coming 6 months or however long it takes to close?
Well, I would tend to start with people. And when you talk about the people at IMG College and Learfield, you're talking about two companies that are structured very similarly and that have a lot of overlap. And so a lot of the feedback I've gotten from the industry people that I talk to indicate that there could be substantial cuts that will immediately enhance the bottom line, but at the same time it's going to be tough for people that are in that position. And so I would imagine there's some people that they're going to maybe be in some uncomfortable spots down the road. So that would be the first thing. The second biggest reaction I've gotten from people today is about, hey, how can they do this? And so there are going to be some antitrust concerns that I'm sure Learfield and IMG College, I'm sure that they've already figured it out if they've gotten this far. But you would expect there to be some scrutiny from the DOJ about the fact that IMG and Learfield will now have 56 of the 65 schools in the Power Five. There would be far and away the dominant player. How would you argue against that? Well, you'd say, well, we're in a space with ESPN, we're in a space with Fox, we're in a space where there's no barrier to entry. There are other legitimate competitors like JMI Sports and Van Wagner out front and so on. And then, also there's the opportunity for schools to manage their own multimedia rights in-house if they so choose. So that, to me, would be the argument kind of against the monopoly scenario. I think there's questions about what will happen with Jefferson City, the kind of secondary headquarters for Learfield, and Winston-Salem, the headquarters for IMG College. What will happen with those two locations? IMG College has a huge audio division there where it's kind of the headquarters for broadcasting their games on the radio. I could see that staying in play. And then also, what are the colleges going to think? I mean, they're the clients in this case, and one of the two major bidders for their rights just got taken off the table. So you would think that's probably not a great scenario if you're trying to monetize your rights.
If you are a player, and I won't name any brands, but if you're a player in a vertical and maybe you're the third to fifth largest player behind some of the brands that are most notable, let's say in ticketing or web or ticket sales. I mean, there's obviously a number of verticals here that they all play in. What are the opportunities? And clearly there's a big threat here, but what opportunities still exist by being an upstart and an underdog?
Yeah, I mean, there are some good examples of some companies that have kind of taken that boutique approach and used it to their advantage. And immediately you think of Fermata Partners and licensing, you think of JMI Sports and multimedia rights. And that has been an approach that has worked for them in some cases. I mean, do you want to be one of 5 of our most important clients, or do you want to be one of 200?
Yeah, let me go this direction. Compare this deal, Michael, to some of the biggest stories you've broken on the business side of college athletics. Is this in your top 3? Is it your number 1? Where's it rank right now?
For me, I would have to say, given what I cover, it would probably be at the top of the list. I mean, somebody asked me, how long have you been working on this? And I said, 11 years, as long as I've been at the magazine. I mean, this is the story that everyone in college sports business has been waiting for, which is for the two biggest businesses in collegiate marketing to get together and what that would look like, what that would mean for sponsors, what it would mean for schools. And now we're getting ready to find out. I would put it at the top of the list. I was talking to someone last night who said this is the story of the decade for college sports business.
And that's today's One Question, brought to you by Turnkey Search, a top industry search firm since 1996. One Question is designed to give D1 Ticker subscribers valuable insights on how executive leaders in college athletics think about key issues on their respective campuses, in their departments, or within their leagues and conferences. One Question is brought to you by Turnkey Search, a top industry search firm since 1996.